This is the interview we are conducting in a new reality where we need to adapt to conducting interviews from home. It is a part of our exhibition, of our final year exhibition. We thought that as a part of your project, it would be interesting to peek into your new area of exploration, which is tattoo, and somehow understand how tattoo world and graphic design world intersect with each other for you. So for the start, let's talk a bit about your journey. So how did tattoo come to you?
That's kind of a long story because I was always interested in some other parts or ways or I don't know, medias, how I can explore, explain what is in my mind, and I thought that tattoo was quite cool since I was like 10 years old. But I never thought that I can come to this culture as a tattoo artist. I always thought that it can be something like far away from me. But after I became a graphic designer, I understand that you can try everything, and it doesn't matter. Like when you start explore and learn something new. So yeah, that's why I actually thought that graphic design is, I don't know, it's a starting point for me in any sphere. So yeah, that's how graphic design bring me to the tattoo world.
Makes sense. So graphic design and artistic background sort of influenced you in a way that you were not afraid to start something new.
Yeah, kind of.
How did you come to realize that your project is going to be connected to tattoo world?
It seems to me that it will be kind of hard for me to uh, combine all stuff that I'm doing, the hobby and the work, and I want to include most of my time in my project. So I decided why not to make it as a one huge project for myself. So from one part, I'm researching the sphere of tattoo artists, making the film, the documentary. I'm there. I'm in the studio talking to other people who are in this area. So it makes me kind of a part of this tattoo sphere. And from the other part, I'm making the diploma and the project, and it helps me to understand if, so to say, if I can combine these both spheres in my life for the future. Because I think that I will be like multidiscipliner, so I can be both tattoo artist and both a graphic designer. I hope that I can do it, but I'll try my best. I want it to be as my kind of like a second profession, if it's possible to say. It's kind of a hobby that can bring me money. So yeah.
I know you're only learning how to tattoo, and it's still a process for you. How this learning process changed during quarantine?
Of course, it's kind of harder. Firstly, because this kind of lazy atmosphere, so you don't want to do anything at all, and it's really hard for me to make all the preparations, because for example this table that I made for this interview took me an hour to construct. So cover everything, you put all the details, make the like the tattoo machine, and so on. So it's harder for me to make myself do something. And another problem is that I don't have a person who can tell me like you are doing some shit. So I'm just doing something, and it's hard for me to understand if it's really bad or it's okay or it's like nice. The only thing how I can understand it is just my opinion, and I don't think that it's quite that it's professional enough to like to judge. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's how my learning process has changed through this situation.
Does your graphic design background help you in a way with researching and getting to know tattoo world as as a whole new thing? Does it help you, or does it connect the same way as it connects in my head for you?
Yeah, of course. I think like the main thing that I will get uh, out of my study in graphic design is the skill of learning. I can learn a lot of stuff by myself. Of course, my graphic design background gave me a lot, especially it influenced my style. I want to work in graphic styles. It's like sketch, line work, dot work, and I think my style in graphic design kind of brought me to the style that I want to use in tattoo. I think the connection between any art sphere, as I already said, it's the process of learning, and uh, the base that they gave me, I made it like wider while searching through the internet. But the problem with the internet resources is that you always need to double check the information.
Well, I think it's for every profession, and especially graphic design, just because we're familiar with it, that you need to double check everything and know what you're like, trust the resources, but trust them enough to check if it's the right resource, or if it's just bullshit.
Yeah, maybe that's why I decided not to learn the tattoo process by myself, but go to the school and find some information there because I don't trust myself.
If we're talking about speaking about how graphic design is similar to tattoo world, uh, I wanted to ask you about uh, the pricing. Uh, Prior to the meeting, you said that you might not want to talk about it, and it's a touchy topic to speak about. But I do feel like, especially within freelance in graphic design, you at some point need to be faced with the fact that you need to set up the price.
In tattoo world, I don't have any experience, but I can kind of understand how the process is made. Like, it consists of the equipment that you use, because there's a lot of parts that can be used only once, and you should buy it every time.
Mhm.
And also, it's like the time that you take to make the tattoo, and it's the place, how much does it cost to rent the place for a few hours or for a session, and how much does your time cost. When you make a price for your project in graphic design, it's kind of looking into the future. You are trying to count how much money you will need to leave to overlay the cost of your computer, of your Adobe subscription, and so on. But in the process of tattoo, the only one part that's kind of overlays your future life is the part that is your time. How much does it cost? Because everything else, the equipment and the place rent, it's like it's a fixed price basically.
Mhm.
So the only one part that you can manage is how much your time costs.
A tattoo artist who is only starting, and a graphic designer who is like only entering the profession, and how still their designs, their work could not cost, for example, um, 300 rubles, 500 rubles. It still needs to be higher, so the profession is not uh, devalued, I think.
Selling it like in contrast, it should be free work. For example, if you
Yeah,
make a logo
sure.
for $10, it's kind of like a free. So
Yeah.
I mean, everything should cost what it should cost.
There is a tendency for graphic designers and artists to make their projects about tattoos. Uh,
Mhm.
and you, as a person who is making their final project about tattoos, how do you feel? Is it just a universal topic that everyone could relate to, or it's interesting because it is another way to explore yourself and to express yourself? Do you see any connections between your interest in tattoo and your desire to include it in the project?
I think that's a topic that was kind of floating in the air through several years, and now people, especially in Russia, kind of get more involved in this process of tattoo and in this culture. Maybe they choose it because it's like it's kind of a trend now, or maybe it's not a trend, but it's something that was forbidden for a long time. Like there was
Mm.
a long story in Russia that tattoos makes only the prisoners make tattoos, and now people understand that it is an art. It can be treated not only as you spend a few years in the darkest places of our country, but as an art, as something beautiful that can be like a jewelry on your skin, so to say.
Mhm.
If you don't know how hard it is to be, I don't know, a shop assistant or anybody who is actually the professional, you cannot understand it, how it goes and how much time it takes and how much you are involved in it. Because for me,
Yeah, of
oh,
course.
shop assistant, what it isn't, it's even not a profession. But there are some guys who work, for example, in some like not trend but famous companies like Hermes, like Dior, and they are professionals and they really takes a lot of money for that, and they are involved in their profession, and they from their side cannot understand, oh, what does it mean to be like a designer? Does you spend any time on doing this, or you made it in the last night? Like, so yeah, I think it's more about how you see the other world around you. That's not finished, but that's what I like kind of have made.